Title: 3D holograph that covers the entire base. Hello there, people. I figure I'd like to tell a strange but true story. Okay, a strange but true story of when I was in the military. I went to join the military in 1980, and I was in the American Marine Corps. I go to basic. I tell them that I want to be what I want to be, and they sent me to a Marine base. Once I get there, we go through all the dialogue and everything and get settled in, and then we go and take our test to see what we what we are good at and what we are not good at. Well, they asked me if I wanted to go to a special ops program. I said, sure, why not? I'm in the Marines. Why not do a special ops? So I'm trained as a sniper, and I graduated 5th in my class. I wasn't quite that good, but I was like in the top 10. I was good at hand to hand, and in the test, they said each test that was given to each soldier was specified for that soldier's life before they got in the military. Mine was on a farm, and they asked me specifically a question. What happens when a predator got in and stole your livestock? I said, I shot him between the eyes. That's the answer I put. So they questioned me further, and when I told them what I meant by that, meaning it was a Sasquatch outside, they looked at me like I was insane. Right? Really? Yeah. We've done everything to deter these creatures from stealing livestock and standing out in the crops and stuff, but it wasn't working. It wasn't even possible, so we had to put them down. They asked, well, how did you know to shoot them between the eyes and not in the eye? I said, well, my first thought was to shoot them in the eye, so I shot a round off and hit it right dead center in the eye, and nothing happened. All I did was make it mad and growl. So I did it again, and I shot another eye, and this thing wasn't going down that way. So I figured I'm gonna hit it right dead center between the eyes. It's got to be somewhere in the head. So I took the shot and dropped him. He just dropped like a sack of taters. They said, very good, Private. You go to your barracks, and we'll be talking more about this later. I was wondering why they would be talking about me. They looked at me like I'm nuts. Moving along here, a couple days later, the staff sergeant came to me and said, Wilbur, you're wanted over in the doc's office. When I walked in there, I thought I was going in for a physical or something. But instead, there was a general standing there with a couple other officials that I've never seen before. They were civilian, but they were military officials. The general said, son, How would you like to go to a special base? I see you put down here you're in for 5 years. I said, yeah, why not? He said, at 0400 hours, I want you on that DC-10 out there. Yes, sir. And I said, where am I going? That's a need to know basis. What am I going to be doing? That's a need to know basis. So me and 40 other privates get on the DC-10 the next morning with all our gear. We go from that base to undisclosed location, which I can tell you now is dubbed the Alaskan Triangle. So we get there, we're flying over top of all these trees and stuff. We're 500 miles in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there's no villages, nothing around us, and we were in the Huey, which is a big helicopter. We had switched from the DC-10 to a couple of Hueys because we couldn't land the DC-10. The runway wasn't big enough. We transferred planes at a different place, a different base. When we came up to the Alaskan base, we were getting the radio in, and I asked, where the hell are we where the hell are you landing? The pilot said, right here. I said, dude, there's trees there. We're on top of trees. You can't land there. You're gonna kill us. You're nuts. So I put my feet on the stabilizers. I grabbed the stick and I grabbed the throttle and said, man, I'm taking over. Right then I hear click, click, click. The MPs had guns at my head. Private, get back there. I was trained to fly a Huey. It's part of my training being a Marine. No, we're landing right here. We're about 600 feet over the treetop over the canopy. And we started going down, 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 and here comes the treetops. And I mumbled, okay, this guy's gonna kill us. And all of a sudden, we go through like what's a hologram. Now, back in 1980, we didn't have technology for 3D holographs. We still don't have that. When we got down below the 3D holograph, it covered the entire base, in which you can see the entire base. At one end of the base is this pyramid with a glowing blue light that emanated from it. Being a good private, I said, sir, what is all this stuff here? He said, it is all need to know basis. Okay. I was a mouthy as hell private. So anyway, we get debriefed. You now are in one of the most top secret bases known to the military officially. And even today, officially, the base does not exist. This is why they never declassified the base, because they never classified it. How can you classify something that doesn't exist? So we're in a top secret military installation. Have no idea where we landed. I know it was not a regular base. They have these weird looking ships. They had this big black triangle ship that was just floating there. It was huge, you know. And around the entire perimeter of the base was this 40-foot high fence made of some kind of material I've never seen before. No one ever has, and it was strange. So, of course, no one's going to answer my questions of what this stuff is. So we go. We get to our bunks, we unpack, we come back to get debriefing. You guys are here as a security detail. You are to guard the base from the enemy. We weren't even at war with anybody. Not in Alaska. Okay, so we're walking the perimeter where we watched these big boulders hitting and being thrown at the fence. It's like something or someone was testing the strengths of the fence. Every time the fence was hit, it was like it gave off a little electronic zap, like it was electrified or something. It was definitely different. So after a month, it takes a good couple hours to walk the span of the perimeter for everything's secure. We come back with report secured. Now you got to walk the outside. Huh? Well, okay, that's part of my job. So we go out there. They give us these rifles that were not like no rifle I have ever seen. They made the M16s look like pea shooters. They were nothing that the civilian market has or the civilians even know about, because they were alien technology. That's all I can say about that. So we watched the perimeter. I'm like, why the hell do we have this weird looking weapon? We're watching the perimeter. They keep throwing rocks. I've seen Sasquatch before, 9-footers. They're pretty tall, pretty big. You know, these things were 16 to 24 feet, and that is no joke. These things were effing monstrous. That was the answer for the 40-foot fence. Apparently, years ago, these creatures attacked the base and literally ripped the humans apart and ate them. They've had taste for human blood since now. We didn't know this when we were out there. While we're walking, we see these things flying, these creatures flying around with these big red eyes. One of the guys in my unit said, "Those are Mothman." I said, "Mothman? So where the F are we?" We get back from walking the outside of the perimeter and checking everything. We just see these creatures. They really don't do anything to us, you know. They just look as we look at them. It was all cool, you know, and especially how big they were. I think if I even tried to shoot at one of these creatures, since it was so big, it probably would not even faze it. So we get back, we check in, okay, and I tell the captain, We've seen some crazy stuff out there. We've seen a Sasquatch out there. It's taller, twice as tall as I've ever seen. And we've seen these things flying around with these big red eyes that one of the guys said was a Mothman. He said, well, you weren't seeing things because that's what those creatures were. This is where everyone's confused at this point. They weren't aggressive toward us. Well, it was a daytime perimeter check. We we don't find this out till later. They don't become aggressive until night. Anyways, we come back in and report everything is cool. Here is the biggest shock. These gray alien creatures are our precious people that we are guarding. Out walk these 4-foot gray alien creatures, Asgar. Now, you've heard the name Asgar in many science fiction TV shows that have that name. That's where they got the name from. How they got the name, I don't know. But I've always believed that all these sci-fi shows, there's 1% truth, and that's the 1% proof. And no, they don't have any beaming me up technology. They said that technology is way beyond their advancements. In fact, they say no race has it, because they've been all over the universe. Well, I never paid much attention to these gray creatures. I just accept after a while they were. You get used to them after a while. You know, they're just like people, but when they speak to you, their mouth doesn't move because they speak to you in telepathy. So we're trying to figure out what's going on here. We go back to the barracks. Actually, we go to the mess hall to get some chow. And one of the guys from my unit stood up and said, "These guys are messing with us. These guys are effing with us, man. This shit is real. Those are people in costume and made up and actors." Everyone thought for sure that it was just the military sense of humor. Well, we thought it was a sense of humor. We found out about midnight when these creatures started attacking and becoming aggressive on the gate. It wasn't a joke. That would explain all the 50 caliber machine guns lined up down the fence. Those were the weapons that we need all night long to defend against these creatures from trying to climb the fence and weasel their way to get us, to get their dinner. We're their dinner. And because we're their dinner, they did everything they could. Now, we kept them pretty much at bay, or so we thought. Then these Mothman out of nowhere started flying overhead, dropping rocks and boulders and stuff at us. It was almost like we were fighting a strategic battle against a human being. These creatures are intelligent enough to do a strategic battle plan. It just was hard to explain. These creatures are intelligent as we are. They don't speak our language, but they are as intelligent as we are. Someone left the gate open, and these creatures got in, and we started just opening fire, grenades, everything. These creatures are very hard to kill, extremely hard. So finally, I remember how I killed that one right between the eyes. So the one creature that we killed, I had to empty one full ammo box of 50 caliber magazine into it. This one creature and 3 others was targeted. The 3 big ones, the three giant ones, the 24-footers, we got them down, and once you're down, all these other creatures started cannibalizing them and started cannibalizing the soldiers that were there. What they do is they rip their prey apart. They eat the intestines, the heart, the liver. They leave the rest. It's all the protein parts of the body for the nutrients. That's where the nutrients is so. So why they were distracted feeding on these things that we killed and our soldiers that they killed, I got on the radio and said, guys, grab your sniper rifle. It's one shot, one kill. These creatures go down with one between the eyes. And sure enough, while they were distracted feeding, we started just popping these things off one at a time, right between the eyes. There must be 75 to 80 of these things. I lost count. Finally, we got the last one down, and then we was able to go and secure the gate. No more could come in because there was plenty more out there. It was almost like they were coming in droves. But we got the gate shut, lost some life. 20 or 40 people in the unit lost their lives. May they rest in peace. I, on the other hand, survived it. It was my quick thinking that saved what was left. So we spent 3 or 4 days cleaning it up, the base and all the bodies. We threw all the bodies in one big pile and burned everything. And those creatures are very heavy. We had to have a couple of truck tows, one to the burning pile. I mean, they're 2,000 pounds easy, especially the big ones. Mothmen are like vegetarians, but they will attack. They will attack. This is where it gets weird. The captain was killed, and so everyone looked up at me. I was by then a staff sergeant, so people were looking up to me, and I didn't really know how to command. I would never really learn a command position, so what happened was I had a call and I figured out what I was doing. How I was going command how I was going to command these guys. And that's when the Ascar creature came up to me and said, "Staff Sergeant Wilbur." And I said, "Yes." He said, "Follow me." I told that in case of an emergency, I would show you what to do. Now you tell me after everyone's dead. You now take me into a pyramid. First time I've ever been in there. And he says, "You have to press this button." So I pressed the button. It was the evacuation button. So I pressed it and I waited for a response. And it had a light and it was not on. I was waiting for it to come on. It wasn't until 3 to 4 days later that someone responded and the light came on. And so here comes the evacuation team now. The evacuation team had these special suits they were wearing, and they have some really tripped out helicopters. They were futuristic helicopters, jets on them, everything. No Healy helicopter has anything like that. Remember now, this is 1985, and the cat gets out and says, Are you Staff Sergeant Wilbur?" I said, "Yes. How did you know?" "We keep in contact." Okay. The whole thing just blew my mind. That whole base blew my mind.
Cut.
So they evacuated all of us, all the scientists except the Greys. They wanted to stay behind to finish their project, whatever they were working on. We never knew what they were working on. So we get in a helicopter and they said, "You have a meeting in Washington, D.C. We're supposed to fly you and your unit to Washington, D.C. So great, I finally get to meet Reagan in person. So we get there and it's about an 8-hour flight. Not anymore. It's only about 2.5 hours to 3 hours from Alaska to Washington, D.C. 2.5 to 3 hours. Man, those things, newer choppers, they can move like the wind. So we get to Washington, D.C. and we land on the White House lawn. We go in and we all enter the Oval Office. There was 20 of us. So the Oval Office isn't as big as what you see on TV. It's rather quite small as we're in there. The captain that was in charge of all this and the lieutenant said, "Okay, soldiers, stand on your feet and salute the president as he walks in. Well, here comes this short guy, and we have no idea who he was. So we just sat there, and the captain was like, all you soldiers want to be court-martialed? You guys stand, salute the president. No, we don't. Where is he? Where's Reagan? Now we don't see Reagan anywhere. That's when we found out it was 20 years later. When we left the base, it was 1985. The same day we got to Washington, the White House, it was 20 years later. A time distortion, bringing us up to a new time level, bringing us up to computers and cell phones. No wonder I couldn't find a payphone anywhere. Couldn't find payphones anywhere. They didn't have any. These people had cell phones. That's why I don't know how to edit a computer. I'm not computer savvy. I'm still trying to learn stuff, trying to catch up. Now, people think that the story is bogus. Well, if the story is bogus, why did I receive the Medal of Valor for saving my platoon? You tell me.